Hare Krishna. Work on mind control enthusiastically, while Krishna works on mind conversion expertly. That the mind is our enemy is well known to all spiritual seekers. We all have the experience that we want to do one thing, but the mind obstructs and resists and compels us to do something else. So it goads us and we feel compelled to do something else. And actually this is not just the experience of spiritual seekers. Even materialistic people feel something within that is pushing them to do things which they regret later. So that dark inner force, when we think about it, we know from the philosophy that it is the mind which is pushing us in the wrong directions. So we know that the mind acts as our enemy. So when we read the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, 6.5, Krishna says that mind is our enemy, we don't feel surprised. We feel vindicated. Vindicated means we feel that what we had earlier thought, it has now been confirmed, it has been proven to be true. So the understanding that the mind is our enemy also inspires us to become more determined. Yes, I must fight with this enemy and I will conquer. So it raises up our fighting spirit. But then we will be surprised that the same verse also says that the mind can be our friend also. So 6.5 says Uddhared atmana atmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Uddhared atmana atmanam, elevate oneself with the mind. Natmanam avasadayet, do not degrade yourself with the mind. Atmaiva hi atmano bandhur, the mind is the friend of the soul. Atmaiva ripuratmanaha, and the mind can be the enemy also. So now how can the mind be our friend? And if it is our friend, then how can we conquer it? Normally if somebody is our friend, we don't think of conquering a friend, we think of befriending and having a close, nice relationship with the friend. So if on one side, if you think of the mind as enemy, we'll battle it. But how can we think of battling and conquering the mind if it is also our friend? So actually, we don't have to conquer the mind, we have to convert it. Why? Because the mind is not our enemy. Although some places it may be talked about, there are dark forces within the mind which are our enemies. So these enemies are the 6 anarthas. Last time the greed, envy, pride and illusion. And the Bhagavad Gita points to this when it identifies one of these enemies in 3.37. This Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha, Mahashano, Mahapapma, Vidyena Mihavairinam. Vidyenam, Arjuna, know this, Ihavairinam. In this material world, this is the enemy. Vairinam, who is that? Kamesha. It's lust, and Krishna says this lust will also get converted into Krodesha, Krodha, when it goes from Rajoguna to Tamoguna. So basically, the mind is not our enemy. The anarthas within the mind are the enemies. And we don't necessarily have to conquer the mind, we have to convert the mind. Convert means, as long as the mind is controlled by the anarthas, it acts in self-defeating ways, in harmful ways. But if the anarthas control is removed, then the mind will be converted, its tendency will change, and it will not act materialistically anymore. It will not act in self-defeating ways. So this deeper approach to the mind, where we don't just think of controlling the mind, but of converting the mind, this differentiates. We don't think of conquering the mind, we think of converting the mind. This differentiates the mind, this differentiates Bhakti Yoga from other yogas. Now, the next verse does talk about conquering the mind. Ajitatmana prashantasya. 6.7 talks about that. And 6.6 also talks about how we need to conquer the mind. When the mind is conquered, it becomes our friend. Yenat maivatmana jita. So the word jita is used. So we may say, yes, Bhagavad Gita is talking about conquering the mind, isn't it? Yes. But what after conquering? It is not that we are supposed to keep the mind as a slave. The mind is to be made into a friend. So we conquer not to enslave or to exterminate, we conquer to befriend. And how will we befriend the mind? It is not that we already trust the mind in one sense, and that trust is unwarranted. So, but to befriend the mind's tendency has to be changed. That changing of the mind's tendency happens through purification. So the other parts where there's not so much talk about the positive spiritual reality and positive spiritual emotions, then they focus primarily on extinguishing the mind, silencing the mind. In the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Samadhi is defined as Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Nirodha means to stop. Chitta Vritti, the movement of consciousness is stop. That is considered perfection. Of course, Patanjali also gives hints of a positive spiritual reality, but that is not often talked about. So, this silencing of the emotions is one approach, and it's quite difficult. Silencing of the mind, extinguishing of the mind, because the mind is active and we are sentient beings. We cannot just give up our emotions. So Bhakti Yoga approaches a deeper and a sounder approach. That is, we don't extinguish the mind, we engage the mind. Engage it by fixing it on the all-attractive Supreme Person Krishna. And if the mind may just, because of its habitual restless nature, it may think of this, think of that, think of that. But if we keep bringing it back, fixing it on Krishna again and again, over a period of time, the mind starts realizing, thinking about Krishna is the most peaceful and most joyful thing that I can do. No other activity. And the mind imagines, this will make me happy, that will make me happy, that will make me happy. Because all the things that I am imagining which will make me happy, none of them will make me as happy as thinking of Krishna. And this is a delicious discovery. Delicious in the sense, very relishable, very sweet. And it is not just we who are prodding the mind towards that delicious discovery. Krishna is also leading the mind. Krishna is at work, expertly revealing his glory and his beauty in such a way that the mind will become attracted. So when we are fixing the mind on Krishna, Krishna is not just an insentient object. Say I may fix my mind on a light. It's not like that. Krishna is not like a insentient light. Krishna is a living, loving person who wants us to become attracted to him, and he knows how troublesome the mind is, and he wants to convert the mind. So what we are doing is, it may seem at one level that what we are doing is similar to what the yogis are doing. The yogis may be trying to fix the mind on a particular point, maybe the tip of the nose, or some light, or some concept in the mind. And we are fixing the mind on Krishna. What is the difference? The difference is that the tip of the nose or the light or some concept, they are not omnipotent, they are not all attractive. And they can't themselves exert any control on the mind, but Krishna can. And Krishna is working expertly. So Krishna is expertly working. Every time when we are chanting Hare Krishna and trying to fix the mind on Krishna, Krishna is revealing his all attractiveness to convert the mind. And gradually as the mind gets this delicious discovery, yes, think of Krishna as so relishable, why do I need to think about anything else? Then that relishable discovery, once the mind gets that, mind accepts that, then as the Bhagavad Gita says, our bhakti will become susukham kartmo, eternally, imperishably it will be joyful. So we have our struggle when we are trying to practice Bhakti Yoga also. But what is our struggle? Our struggle is just to work on mind control and not get tired. Even the mind goes here, goes there, it doesn't seem to be much taste. Somehow we enthusiastically go on. Yes, just fix the mind on Krishna. And as we are fixing the mind on Krishna, Krishna is working expertly. And he is working expertly to convert the mind. And gradually, once the mind accepts that, yes, Krishna is the source of happiness, then the mind will become our friend. What does a friend do? If we go on a wrong track, the friend brings us on the right track. Sometimes, say we are exposed to undesirable stimuli, anti-devotional, immoral temptations, and we start thinking about them. The mind will bring us back to Krishna. I know that there's nothing there in that. Think about Krishna. And so in that way, then the mind becomes our friend. And that stage will end our inner struggle and make our inner life a constant festival of love and joy. Thank you. Hare Krishna.